Hello. In this week's Torah portion, Toldot, we read about the birth of the twins Jacob and Esau. Quote, Rebekah, Isaac's wife, conceived twins, and the children struggled within her. And the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 kingdoms will separate from your innards. 1 kingdom will become mightier than the other kingdom, and the elder will serve the younger. The first one emerged ready. He was completely like a coat of hair, and they named him Esau. And afterwards his brother emerged, and his hand was grasping Esau's heel, and he named him Jacob. And the youth grew up, and Esau was a man who understood hunting, a man of the fields, whereas Jacob was an innocent man dwelling in tents. End of quote. Jacob became the saintly patriarch of Judaism, and Esau became his nemesis, the epitome of evil, the ancestor of Amalek, Haman, Rome, and all manner of anti-Semites. How did they end up being so different? In spite of having the same parents, having the same upbringing, hearing the same teachings, and growing up in the same environment. Is this proof that one is born with tendencies and it is not the environment that produces problems? It's the old nature versus nurture question. We're told there were physical differences. Esau was hairy and Jacob smooth-skinned. Does that influence behavior? Also, does twinning, which is more intense brotherhood, also imply more intense sibling rivalry? Is this the source of the evil twin legend found in many cultures? Jewish commentators have said nothing special about twins in general. In popular language, we say my twin soul or my twin flame, meaning we expect twins to be very similar, or at least to love each other. Twins are not common. In the United States, only 3% of pregnancies result in twins. Worldwide, the fraction is less, only 1.1%. They can be identical twins, coming from one egg that splits in 2, or fraternal twins coming from 2 different eggs. The story of Tamar gives us another explicit set of biblical twins. Quote, And it came to pass at the time of Tamar's labor that, behold, twins were in her womb. When she labored, one put out his hands. The midwife tied a scarlet thread on his hands, saying, This one came out first. Then he drew back his hands, and his brother came out. She said, What a breach you have made for yourself. Therefore he was called Peretz. Afterwards his brother came out with a scarlet thread on his hands, and he was called Zerah. End of quote. Peretz and Zerah, the twin sons of Tamar and Judah, also struggled to be born first. Peretz became the forefather of Boaz, the great-grandfather of King David, and the progenitor of the future Messiah. The Midrash tells us that both Peretz and Zerah were righteous. Why this detail? The Torah says nothing more about Peretz and Zerah. The Torah does not describe the births of other biblical figures. Why here? Rav Levi Yitzhak of Berdichev, from 18th century Poland, explains in his Kedushat Levi. The Talmud says that a baby learns all of Torah in the womb, and when he is born, an angel taps him on the lips and he forgets it all. Why? Because knowledge creates barriers to the divine. At birth, God removes our knowledge so that we can begin in a state of purity, in complete connection to God. As we learn things, it becomes more difficult to maintain that connection to God. Universities are notorious dens of secularism. The names Peretz and Zerah mean that we can connect to God by breaking through, paratz, the barrier that our knowledge creates, and then God will shine, zarah, a holy light upon us. The Torah language means the following. And he put out his hand means God extends his hands to enable us to begin life in a state of purity. And he withdrew his hands means God removes his assistance as we acquire knowledge. And behold, his brother emerged refers to the potential to achieve brotherhood with God, as it were. The details of the birth are given to hint at the possibilities that follow every birth. The Midrash postulates a lot of twins, mostly to answer questions such as, who did the first men marry to perpetuate the species? Where did they find fellow Jews to marry? It tells us that Cain was born with a twin sister, and Abel was born with two twin sisters. They each married their twin, and their fight was really over who would marry Abel's other sister. Elsewhere, it says that alternatively, Cain and Abel were themselves twins. The Torah says, quote, and Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, and she continued to bear his brother Abel, unquote. The word continued implies that they were twins. In Jacob's clan, it says that Jacob's wives Rachel and Leah were not only sisters, but twins. That each son of Jacob had a twin sister, and that each married that twin sister. Benjamin was one of the triplets, and the other two were girls. Joseph's sons Menashe and Ephraim were also twins. Dinah, daughter of Leah, was a twin with Zebulun. The Midrash even says that God and Israel can be considered to be twins, in that each feels what the other feels. Psychologists have studied twins to answer the above questions. In her book, Indivisible by Two, Lives of Extraordinary Twins, psychologist Nancy Siegel describes the following case, illustrating how important a child's environment is in determining his future behavior. In 1933, identical twins Jack Yuffie and Oscar Storr were born in Port of Spain, Trinidad, in the British Empire, to a Romanian Jewish father and a German Catholic mother. 6 months later, Storr went to Germany with his mother. She raised him Catholic, and he became an enthusiastic Nazi and a member of the Hitler Youth. He stayed in Germany after the war and continued to defend Nazism. Yuffie remained in Trinidad and grew up Jewish and British, then became an officer in the Israeli Navy, then settled in San Diego. They kept in touch by mail and met in Germany at age 21. Storr removed Yuffie's Israeli luggage tags and told him to say he was coming from America, not Israel. Yuffie recalls, we saw each other as enemies. Neither one of us would change. Excuse me. We looked at each other with suspicion. 6 days later, they parted with a cold handshake. 25 years later, they were brought back together for the study. Storr said years later, that he dreamt of shooting his twin in an aerial dogfight. Yuffie said he dreamt of killing his brother with a bayonet. They could never agree on Israel or on who was responsible for World War II. And Yuffie was infuriated by Storr's constant reference to Nazi soldiers as we. Behaviorally, their similarities were uncanny. Both read books from back to front, sneezed loudly in elevators, wrapped rubber bands around their wrists, flushed toilets before and after using them, wore tight bathing suits, walked and even tripped in the same manner. Storr died in 1997 and Yuffie in 2015, both of cancer. The following case illustrates the Jewish requirement to separate conjoined, that is Siamese, twins if only one is viable. In September 1977, in Lakewood, New Jersey, Siamese twins were born to a prestigious family of Torah educators. The doctors said that both will die unless they were separated, that one of them can be saved only if the other is killed during surgery. Dr. Everett Koop, later to become Surgeon General, said to ask the courts first before proceeding. Rav Moshe Feinstein ruled that the doctors must go ahead with the surgery, that the viable child must live and the other must be considered a rodef, a pursuer, and can be killed to save the first. Now we enter the supernatural. Many identical twins, some have claimed 1 in 5, seem to have a psychic connection. The evidence is anecdotal, but still puzzling. It is akin to the physical phenomenon of quantum entanglements, where two particles retain a link to each other even when separated by large distances. we will leave that discussion for another time. Shabbat Shalom.